Everyone, how are you doing? This is Dr. Scott Bland. We are going to be going over my 30-day results from 1,000 calories a day. Now, God bless all the lawyers in the world, so I need to say out loud that this is not personal medical advice. Do not do this without talking to your own personal physician. This is just an obesity medicine physician who is documenting their trial of doing the low calorie to very low calorie diet, 1,000 calories a day, which is essentially a bariatric diet, and doing that over the course of 30 days to see how it goes. We wanted to see how we're doing on mood. We wanted to see our actual body fat loss. We wanted to see how much that was muscle loss and just if it was generally tolerable. So let's kind of go through and break down some of those issues. The first is that was it tolerable and enjoyable? No, it's not enjoyable in any way, shape, or form. It was certainly doable, but there were many moments where I had already kind of burned through my calories for the day, and I would, go out to eat with my wife, and I would just have, hey, honey, I'll have 3 chicken wings while I'm sitting here, which my wife is laughing about in the corner over there because that's a thing that I really did, right? We also had moments where I would say, hey, I'll go sit with you to eat, but I've already eaten my calories today, so I'm not going to. Or I would skip breakfast and not eat all day because I knew that I was going to be going to a larger meal at the end of the day. During my work days, which are kind of long 12-hour shifts for me, I didn't do too bad because I'm generally too busy to sit down and eat anyway. And so that was fine. I just used some medical grade meal replacement bars that we'll talk about later. Otherwise, I really focused on pretty heavily protein issues because I was trying to minimize the amount of skeletal muscle loss during this. And protein intake is a big part of how to not lose muscle mass when you're losing weight a lot. I want to be very, very clear about what I'm saying there. You can lose weight eating a Snickers bar. You can do it. You can lose weight eating candy as long as you're at a calorie deficit, but your amount of muscle loss, the way you're going to eat, all your metabolic stuff, it will not be as efficient as if you're eating whole, healthy foods. So that is the part of the deal there. So let's get down to the actual breakdown of the weight loss there. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up here and get that going. Now that is where I wanted to be at here. That's a different number. So pardon me, get to my slides. Oh, good. So there we go. So weight loss, it looks there like 16 pounds, 0.2. So with 16 pounds, 0.2, that is a pretty significant weight loss. Now, you might notice if you've been watching some of my other videos prior to this that I had been saying my starting weight was 208 and change. That is because every scale has kind of its own zero, so to speak. And you might find that you're consistently 2 pounds heavier at your doctor's office versus your scale at home. Some of that might be the clothes you're wearing. But nonetheless, that's where I'm at. So I went down, and this was the exact same in-body scanner. I went to the same place and did it 30 days apart. And I looked at where I got 210.9 to 194.7. Now, the main thing that I really wanted to track, and the reason I was doing this body composition is because I wanted to see how much of this was going to be actual fat loss and how much muscle loss that I would have. And it may not be a thing that you're aware of, but it's commonly expected in a strict calorie deficit that you might have as much as 25% of your weight loss actually be loss of muscle. So one of the things I looked at here was the difference here. And I look at 83.6 pounds of skeletal muscle mass down to 81.4. So 2.2 pounds of muscle loss out of the 16.2 that I had there. So generally, I thought my ratios were pretty decent. I was pretty pleased with that. And I think a lot of that was my real big strict adherence, trying to make sure I had lots of protein on days when I wasn't working 12 hours, which is a lot of walking around, kind of low cardio type stuff. I was being pretty adamant about going out and doing some calisthenic works with the guys, from doing some lifting. I had a whole video about doing an Army combat fitness test in the middle of this that I kind of got surprised with by the Army, but not too bad. So then when you look at your percent body fat, loss went from 30.1 down to 26.6% body fat. And I'm going to talk about what that means in a second as we flip over here to the next slide. And this is my kind of obesity analysis. Now, BMI is the number that most people are familiar with. I started with a BMI in the 28 and change range. I dropped my BMI 2 points in a month down to 26.4. That still has me classified at a BMI of an overweight diagnosis because 25 to 30 is overweight. 30 and up is a diagnosis of obesity. So I'm still in the overweight category, but I lowered the the amount of kind of wiggle room that I have there. So I made a pretty big progress, but I'm still classified as overweight. So the next thing down that line is your percent body fat. That's the low end. And the issue is for males, the percent body fat works on a different scale, right? So at 25% body fat, that's the percentage of your weight on a scale that comes from fat tissue is actually 25. And then you go, that's where you're already at obesity. So the issue that I have there is I'm already classified as obesity there. I was a little over 30 before, and now I'm down to 26.6 and change. So I did a whole bunch of fat loss there, which was, I think, pretty reasonable. Now, when you look back to the weight loss of the 16 and change, another thing that you have to notice is I didn't lose 14 pounds of fat loss. Another benefit to these body composition scales is that they can actually track water weight. And when you go to particularly to a lower carb, you're going higher protein diet, you often find what they call like the whoosh effect, is some of the keto crowd tends to call it. You find that you end up with a pretty significant water weight loss as you kind of run through those glycogen stores. And I lost, when I looked at my actual water weight numbers between these two scans, I ended up losing 3 pounds of water. 3.3, I think, is what I ended up. So, I got about 2.2 pounds of this was muscle loss, 3.3. So now I'm at 5.5. 3.3 was water. So now I'm at 5.5 total out of the 16 and change, just over 11 pounds of weight loss, or 10 pounds of fat loss. And I thought that was pretty decent progress. Now, the next step, then, kind of question mark, is, well, is this sustainable long term? And the answer is absolutely not. This is not meant to be a forever long term project. What I am considering doing, and my wife was teasing me earlier about this today for thinking I was crazy, is I am considering gonna just keep this running, and I'll run it into maybe not a whole other month, but run it in long enough to get my body weight down, my BMI number down to the non-overweight classification, and then run another scan, see how I'm at on my body fat percentage, and then try and start working on body fat percentage. But for me, that would get me down to 183, which is skinnier than I have probably been since, I don't know, babe, what would you say, 4 or 5 years into marriage? Maybe even earlier than that. It didn't take me a whole lot of time being married to hit overweight classification. I did the classic, very, very happy, gained some weight, dude status, but that's okay. It's a thing. It's my actual status. So currently, I think I'm doing pretty decent with it. There have absolutely been moments where I felt completely wiped out. I went on a 6-mile hike with my wife today. I probably overdid it a little bit. I decided I wanted to do some rucking. Rucking is where you just carry a weight. So I put a 25-pound weight in my Go Ruck bag, which is a really heavy-duty backpack. I can see some links below to show what I'm using for that. And man, I got really, really wiped out to the point where I thought I was going to sit down to get through it at one point. I just hit a moment of sap. Now, for most of it, I was completely fine and enjoying myself. And then my body said, "Hey, dummy, you need to slow down. You have not been eating a whole lot, and we are tired." And I had to really kind of fight through getting through that hike. And this was not a hard hike. This was just walking, a paved trail around a lake. This was not high-end stuff. So your performance is not going to be what it used to be. But I'm generally able to get through things. I have some moments of tiredness during the work days, 12-hour days, but I get through it. So this is a doable thing for me in my current status. I am going to go ahead and keep this running and see how long it takes me to get down to maybe my first non-medically overweight BMI since year 3 or 4 of marriage, probably, right? I'm looking at my wife here through the corner. That's where I'm looking at over the side. She's laughing at me. I think so. Now it'd be 15 years I've been at least overweight, and probably classified as having obesity for a good chunk of that as well. Particularly during med school, but doing okay now, and we'll see how it goes. And then we'll talk through the process, and you'll watch me try and adjust my calorie intake and my energy level to really kind of hit that plateau and hold and try and maintain. And we'll see how that goes. So I will be your guinea pig, and we will see how a calorie deficit transitions into long-term status. Hope you all have a good day. This is Dr. Scott Bland, and I am going to have a good night. Bye.